Now, this is one of those games that from the get-go, I just knew was going to be a scrappy game. And I'm talking about the 49ers and Buccaneers. You know, the Niners are a problem. Man, they're a tough team to beat. I know they're not undefeated, but this is the NFL. That doesn't matter. They're just a tough team to beat. But I kind of predicted this last week where I said this will not be a runaway game. The Buccaneers are just a scrappy team. They're willing to play very tough. They keep games very close. And that's what had me excited to actually watch this game this weekend. And that's exactly what we got. We got a tough, scrappy game. Baker Mayfield does not have one of his better days this season so far, but at least he didn't throw any interceptions, so I got to give him his credit on that end. But for the Niners, Brock Purdy, I'm serious when I say they need to open up the checkbook and pay this guy. He needs a big contract once he gets out of this rookie deal because, man, they're getting all of this performance for literally peanuts. They're paying him nothing, and he still has a roommate in San Francisco where he can't even afford to live on his own as he claimed on his own. That's crazy. This guy is playing lights out. Open up the checkbook and pay this guy. As for Brock Purdy, some of the stats that he put up, he completed 25 passes on 36 attempts, 353 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What a great day. Christian McCaffrey is back. He looked good. I'm glad they're not overusing him in a game like this, but the Buccaneers defense definitely worked really hard to keep this game very close. And the game never really got out of hand, which was really nice to see. And really only place where the Buccaneers lost this game is they did not score in the first quarter. If they would have scored at least a field goal in the first quarter, this would have been an overtime game. Otherwise, a 3-point loss, a good road loss to the 49ers, going cross-country and playing them, it is what it is. This was a great game, but also a really good win for the 49ers. And once again, the Buccaneers are showing they're in a good place. Even being 4-6, I think they are the best 4-6 team definitely in the NFL right now. I think in the draft, they'll definitely have to get a couple pieces just to help them out. Offensive linemen, defensive linemen, a couple of corners. It will definitely help strengthen that team in a lot of great ways. But the Buccaneers are really, truly only a few places or a few pieces away from being a truly dangerous team like they were when they had Tom Brady. Once again, the Bengals come up short on beating the Ravens for the second time this season. But then again, man, it's all about making some really bad decisions in the end. Ultimately, they really could have kicked that extra point in the fourth quarter with 23 seconds left to go into overtime, at least give their defense a chance to earn this win. But ultimately, they decide to go for a 2-point conversion. Now, to be honest, I did see Joe Burrow putting up 2 fingers towards the end, and I'm not exactly sure why, because if that was me, I'd take the extra point in this case, and I'm going to overtime and I'm giving my team the best chance to win. But I know what happened in the first game. They went to overtime. They lost to the Ravens. Once again, that was just bad coaching, poor play calling. You miss a field goal in overtime, then the Ravens beat you by a field goal. Once again, that was just poor play calling. But in this situation right here, going for the 2-point conversion absolutely makes 0 sense because there's no recourse if you don't get it, which is exactly what happened, So you lose by 1 point. You get swept by the Ravens. Now to get into the playoffs makes it much harder for the Bengals, even if they come back. At this point, what may be helping them is the AFC South, since there are 3 teams that don't seem to be doing the best in the AFC South right now. So that could help them out tremendously. And for some reason, the Bengals just keep finding ways to lose these games with these bad decisions. I'm honestly a little bit sick of seeing it. I hope we don't get to see it for the rest of the season. But for some reason, they did it 2 times in a row to the Bengals. I'm still struggling a little bit to fully understand the decision-making on that sideline, especially when it comes to the offense. But, Joe Burrow, he actually showed up for the team on this one. He threw for 428 yards, 4 touchdowns, completing 34 of 56 attempts. So he played pretty well. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, he also threw for 4 touchdowns with 290 yards and had a much better completion rating at 25 passes completed versus 33 attempted. So this might be it for the Bengals. I'm starting to think that the Bengals are definitely done for this season. I don't really see any other reason to believe that the Bengals are going to come back and change anything at this point. I just don't see it, But they are still 4-6, so anything is possible. They still are, in the hunt to potentially get into a playoff position, but as of right now, it's not looking so great for them. Jamar Chase, he had 11 receptions for 264 yards in this day. What a day. And 3 touchdowns. So Jamar Chase is definitely worth every penny that they have paid him. And I hope he goes back and gets even more money later on because he's definitely worth it. This is another one of those games where I think Joe Flacco throwing 3 interceptions is what changed the entire game. And I'm talking about the Bills and the Colts. He actually played pretty well for the most part in this game. And even looking at the other side with Josh Allen, he did not throw any touchdowns this entire game and had 2 interceptions. So the dynamics for the Colts definitely shows up in this one with Joe Flacco. So I said it a few weeks ago where I wanted to see Joe Flacco definitely be the starter because with Richardson, the flow was just not moving right. And I'm not judging Richardson. I just think they need to develop him a little bit more and coach him up a little bit more. But Joe Flacco definitely has the better flow with this offense. And it seems like the coaches have seen the very same exact thing as well. And it seems like they made the decision to make him QB1 for the foreseeable future until they get Richardson in the right place. But the Bills have to clean up some of these problems, man, especially if they want to take on teams like the Chiefs and the Ravens in the playoffs, which is kind of their Achilles heel ultimately. There's a lot at stake going on here when you watch games like this. The entire AFC South lost games this weekend. So the Colts could have won this game. Well, at least if they did, they would be only 1 game away from the Texans. But the Texans also lost, so it remains 2 games away. So instead of the Texans taking a three-game lead in the AFC South, the race continues because they're really the best team in the AFC South, but they're missing quite a few pieces just to capitalize on that lead. There's still a conversation out there since the Colts were swept by the Texans, which means they will have to sweep at least one other team inside the division to help them, and it could be the Jags or something like that. But I'd have to go back to their schedule and look at their games that they played. I'm not sure if they played the Jags quite yet, but if they haven't, they got to focus on that and get a sweep of their own because they're going to need that help. If you're the Colts, I'm starting to think that they're looking for a new quarterback this coming year in this next draft because we know Joe Flacco is not your future. And I don't know how long it will take Richardson to get ready to be the future franchise quarterback for the Colts, but he's not ready right now, and that's okay. Does that mean you keep Joe Flacco around as the veteran to help develop Richardson, which I think makes more sense? Because there aren't too many quarterbacks that I don't think the Colts will be able to find wherever they're drafting in the beginning because of the games that they won versus other teams' win-loss records to find the quarterback that they actually need. So, but they have to start thinking about that process and seeing what will ultimately happen. As for the Bills, this is only 10 games in. You still have 7 games to go to clean up some of these issues so you can prepare for the Ravens and the Chiefs in the playoffs. But you got to clean up these mistakes, man. Josh Allen is far too good to be playing in bad games like this where you don't even throw a touchdown. He's just far too good for this. We expect a lot better from him, and I hope we'll get it soon. The Chiefs survive again. Every week the Chiefs get me, and I don't know what it is. In this one, I'm still looking for a team that will come out and be able to beat the Chiefs. This one was almost done for the Broncos, but man, that field goal block at the end, that was the play of the game for me, especially for the Chiefs. I mean, you even see how excited Patrick Mahomes was. The play of the game was the field goal block. If you didn't see it, I will definitely have the video up here and you'll definitely be able to watch it. But that's what saved the undefeated season of the Chiefs. End of story. In the end, the Chiefs found a way to win. They found a way to survive, which they always do. The Broncos, man, they gave them a game. This was a division game too. They really came out and played tough. Yeah, you lost by 2 points, but if you would have hit the field goal in the end, you actually would have won and gave the Chiefs their first blemish. But shoulda, woulda, coulda. It did not happen. It is what it is. But being a division game, I think is definitely what made this one really tough. because although I expected the Broncos to be in this game, I didn't expect it to be this close. I didn't think that they would have a chance to win it in the end. But we have to give these guys their credit, man. Bo Nix played well. Patrick Mahomes also. Kareem Hunt and Cortland Sutton also played well for their sides respectively, but they did not dominate the game. It was really more of a defensive game, which is what I prefer the most. And I know a lot of people prefer it when teams just run up the scoreboard. I'm on the other side of that. I just want shut down defense and make the offense earn everything they got to do, But it made up for everything we were expecting to see. Everyone honestly thought the Chiefs, like I said, were just going to run away with this one. That's not what happened. But at the end of the day, the Chiefs definitely are starting to look beatable. Maybe teams can watch this game and learn a lot from it. But I have to give a shout out to that special teams, man. That special teams made it happen. They made it happen. So congrats to the Chiefs. They're still undefeated. For the Broncos, you still have another game against the Chiefs. Man, maybe you can do it at home. Maybe that's where the advantage is needed. But some team definitely has to protect the Patriots 18-1 record that they did in 2007, or even the Dolphins 19-0 record when they went undefeated and won the Super Bowl. Somebody has to do it. Come on, guys. Dolphins Rams. In this one, is this a turnaround for the Dolphins in this season? Because Tua is back and it seems like he's wanting to recover everything that the Dolphins had lost during the season while he was out for his concussion. The Rams did such a great job of beating the Seahawks last week, but I think they had a little bit of hangover with that because they were not able to close out this win at home. Matthew Stafford almost threw for 300 yards in this game, but he did not throw any touchdowns. And the Rams had to settle for nothing but field goals. So you kick 5 straight field goals and you lose this game by 9 points at home, or 8 points at home. The game was definitely a mixed bag for the Dolphins in this one. They only scored 2 touchdowns in the first and third quarter, and then they had to kick field goals the rest of the way, but it wasn't more than enough to actually get the job done. And honestly, if you did not watch this game, I'm just being honest with you, you really didn't miss anything. Eagles Cowboys. Now, okay, before we go anywhere, I'm not going to say too much about this game because we know the Cowboys are going to be a different team with Dak Prescott out for the season with that hamstring injury. Cooper Rush, I don't think they prepared him enough, or he had enough time to prepare in this game, because he completed 13 passes for 45 yards. I don't even know how that's possible at the next level. Rico Dowdle actually rushed for more yards than Cooper Rush completed in passing yards, and that was 13 passes. And that was just, once again, something interesting and weird to see all at the same time. But the Cowboys were basically shut out at home. They only scored 6 points on 2 field goals. They got beat up by the Eagles in this division game. They lost 34-6. But without Dak Prescott, we knew this game would get out of hand for the Cowboys. Zeke, on the other hand, had a really weird fumble inside the red zone, actually really inside the 5-yard line, that ended up in the end zone where it was recovered by the Eagles for a touchback. So no one is really shocked about what we've seen in this game. It was just pure domination by the Eagles. Falcon Saints. Here's another division game where the Saints simply cannot lose for the second time to get swept by the Falcons. And they pull off the win. Derek Carr is starting to look like himself again, and the Saints truly needed him to come back the way that he did. Kirk Cousins, on the other hand, threw for 360 yards and still did not throw for a touchdown in this one. Bijan Robinson had to save the day with the touchdowns for this one, and he rushed for 2 of them for the Falcons, so good job to him. The Saints, they're trying to really figure out their identity right now. In the beginning, they were such a high-scoring team. Now they just look very average in the NFL. But they definitely don't know what their identity actually is. Are they a fast-paced team? Do they want to throw the ball up quite often? Are they a running team? Are they supposed to have a team with a dual-threat quarterback in Taysom Hill, but he's not really their starting quarterback? What are they? We don't actually know, But they have to keep pushing forward and just realize that this season is not over, and that they can turn some things around. I think playoff hopes is definitely out the question at this point, but can they even get close to 500 by the end of the year? Can they be 8-9, or can they even be 7-10? Can they even get there? Because I think that's a successful season from the way They started 2-0 and then lost all those games in a row. Can they win? Can they string together a few weeks of wins basically by the end of the season becomes the question. I don't think they will, but it would be nice to see them try. But first and foremost, man, they have to snap out of this losing mindset and this losing streak that they are on, because this is not what we expect the Saints to be. But the Falcons, they're definitely in a good place right now. Now, you had to wake up early in the morning for this game because the Giants take on the Panthers, and the Panthers desperately needed this one. Well, I mean, the Giants too. I can't say this was really a one-sided game, but Bryce Young once again gets another start because Andy Dalton is hurt, with the thumb injury. Bryce Young, this was one of his better games. I'm not going to lie. He didn't blow up the stat sheet or anything like that, but he did just enough for the Panthers to walk away with a win in this one. And in all honesty, that's all you can ask for right now. Daniel Jones on the other side, he did not show up for his team this time around. He actually completed 22 passes on 37 attempts for 190 yards, and he threw 2 interceptions in this one. That's it. Even though, they came close, it just wasn't enough. And when I say they, I mean the Giants. And in the NFL, 3 points is a win no matter where you are. I mean, even 1 point. Ask the Chiefs this week. Even 1 point is a win, So good job to the Panthers, and well done for what they needed to do to win this game. But, man, they got a lot of needs for this team to actually get it where it needs to be, get it back up to par. I wonder what this means, though, for Bryce Young. Once Andy Dalton gets healthy again with his hand, will they keep Bryce Young on the field? I've been questioning this the entire season, whether he will see the field again. Obviously, like I said earlier, this time it was only due to Andy Dalton's injury. But I did mention in the past that maybe he is not the future of the Panthers, and the only way he would see the field again is if Andy Dalton got injured for any given reason. So do you bring him back and develop him for the rest of the season and keep Andy Dalton on the sidelines even once he is fully healed? Or do you go get a quarterback in this next draft? I can't wait to find out what ends up happening, because I'm really curious as to what's going on in the front office with the Panthers, but they're keeping everything hush-hush, and I'm okay with that. But ultimately, all of our questions will be answered in this next draft anyway. Jets, Cardinals. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers is way out of his prime, but for him to throw the ball 35 times in a game and not throw a touchdown is kind of weird to watch and see. But we know he's way out of his prime. Kyler Murray, on the other hand, he completed about 95% of his passes, 22 of 24 for 266 and 1 touchdown. He was spreading the ball out to 7 receivers in total in this game. That's impressive. And it seems like almost every receiver, if you look at it from top to bottom, are almost averaging 10 yards a reception. Great day. Well, what a great day. The Cardinals have these tools on the back of their hands, but they just decide not to use them, and they lose games. Now, in this game, pretty much what happened for the Cardinals is what I expected the Texans to do to the Jets the week prior. So I was a little bit shocked to see the Texans lose that game to the Jets, but, that's old news at this point. But I do have to admit, ever since the Jets fired their coach, they actually look worse. So that coach was actually making a big difference on that team. Now, this is a game that everybody had penciled, circled, and dotted on their calendar, and everybody was ready to watch out for this game. I mean, the stadium was even sold out. Last week, if you checked out my video, I definitely mentioned I had the Lions beating the Texans. For some odd reasons, the Texans came out really strong. And if someone can explain this to me, I would appreciate it. Because they came out really strong, came out really fast in the first half, putting up 23 points. They looked confident. Their receivers were actually getting open and catching the football, most of the time at least. But I'm starting to think I've been right all along this season. Their plays are taking far too long to develop, and they don't have the receivers that are getting enough separation to actually give CJ Stroud a place to throw the ball. He's having to throw the ball into such really tight pockets. The route tree combinations they're using are just not getting enough separation on the field, So if you notice the touchdown that CJ Stroud threw to John Mechie, that was into almost triple coverage is what it looked like if you were watching it from the TV perspective. That looked really dangerous, but it seems like that's almost what he has to do. He has to force these passes into places that are far too dangerous for him to be throwing the ball to. But I'm starting to think it's time for a new offensive coordinator because you don't have your best receivers on the field right now, especially in Nico Collins. They need plays that develop much quicker. All these plays are generally taking 4 to 5 seconds to develop, and then CJ Stroud is running for his life. And, they got to get him out of danger. They got to stop with the offensive line penalties, from the holdings to the false starts and all that stuff. It's just not working out for them. This is just not the right formula with what they currently have. You shut down the Lions for the most part to 13 points in the first half, but then you come out in the second half and forget a football game was going on. The time management was poor, on the Texans side. And for some reason, you expect to win a game not scoring any points in the second half when you have such a great team in the Lions visiting you in a primetime game where everybody is watching and you got a sold-out stadium. You cannot do that, I called it out last week. The Texans had to score a lot of points to win this game because the Lions are far too good. And if they did not score enough points in this game, it was going to be a long day for them. And the Lions are far too good to lose a game where a team is not scoring in the second half. And right now, the Texans are just not in the best place to play mediocre football in the second half. You have to come out and take care of business. And literally, it took the hometown kid, the kicker, Bates, for the Lions to come out and actually win this game with his 2 field goals in the end. The Texans could not even get a field goal in the entire second half. They couldn't even get into field goal range. This honestly was the first time I can say, though I've seen a quarterback throw 5 interceptions in a game and 2 touchdowns, they still came back and won this game. I've never seen that in my life. I can honestly state that. I was equally as shocked as anyone else. Joe Mixon showing his frustration on the sidelines was felt by everybody on TV and in the stands, I'm pretty sure. Nothing was just working for the Texans in the second half, and it was a perfect time for the Lions to take advantage of that. Now let's go visit my boys here, the Patriots. They went on the road to play the Bears, and once again, I got to give Drake May his props, man. This kid is playing very well. He's playing great football. I really appreciate what they have done with him. I'm glad they brought him on the field once again. I know initially there was a lot of fear with the offensive line, but I'm happy with what's going on right now. Another player that is not getting enough attention is the running back, Stevenson. Man, he is carrying the ball and getting more and more dependable every time. He's durable. He's taken a lot of this punishment, but he's handling it very well. He doesn't seem to be injury prone quite yet. And it's working out best for this offense, to have that dual threat where you have a running game and a passing game that's actually working out for you. But, they got to find a running back in the later part of this next draft, maybe 3rd, 4th, even 5th round, to give Stevenson a break, because if they overuse him, he will break down faster, as running backs are known for going through that, But no longer can we sit back and say running backs are not important or they do not matter in this league, because they are still very important. Look at Saquon Barkley. Look at Derrick Henry and some of these other guys. There's many that I could name, but those are 2 that stand out, that are obvious, that, yes, running backs still matter, And Noshawn Gentry, I believe. Gentry is his last name. He plays for Boise State Broncos in college. When he comes into the NFL, I'm curious to see how well he will play, because he is blowing up the stat sheets all over college football. I wonder if he's one of those special talents that will help give more attention to running backs in the NFL. But going back to this game, as for the Bears, they simply did not do enough to win this game. This is one of those where Caleb Williams struggled quite a bit like he did earlier in the season, and it actually shocked me a little bit because it almost looked like he regressed in this game. I expected him to play a lot better than he did. He completed just over 50% of his passes, 120 yards. He did not throw a touchdown in this game. And in this league, that's just not enough. Even if you're playing the Patriots right now, who is in rebuilding mode, they played just good enough to be shut out at home, basically. They got a field goal, but outside of that, it was definitely, the Patriots pitched a shutout. That's what happened. This game makes me sigh every time I even think about it. I can't believe I actually witnessed this game happen. You know how they say defenses win championships? Well, in this one, defense has definitely lost this game in every way for the Commanders. What was going on with the Commanders the entire game on this one? The momentum swing even from the punt where the Steelers are putting the ball into Commander territory. The guy goes up for a fair catch and the ball hits him square in the face mask. You've done that millions of times. You get paid to do this. Just catch the ball and you're down. But he got nervous in the moment. The ball hit him in the face mask. Steelers recover inside the red zone. And, of course, they scored to take the lead in the game. Russell Wilson, on the other hand, he played decently. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. He completed 50% of his passes for 195 yards and 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. The 1 pick was really towards the end of the first half, so it's not really a big deal. We don't fault him for that one. The stats are not bad, but even if he played great in this game, if you watch this game, the only thing you're going to remember was how bad the defense was for the Commanders, if we're being completely honest. Some of the other problems that I noticed were the defense of the Commanders just not tackling properly. They just looked like they couldn't tackle today. Their coverages were all over the place and giving up the big plays. They even gave up a 2nd and 16 that ended up going for a 3rd and 5 and then a first down right after that where the crowd started booing the team or the defense on the field. Allowing those kind of first downs puts you in such a bad position. It kind of kills the morale of the defense a little bit. And in the corner, getting burned over there by Mike Williams to score a touchdown to tie the game and then take the lead with the extra point, 28-27, was just one other thing. But the 4th down and 1 with a minute left, for a fact Russell Wilson is lining up to trick you. He's not going to snap the ball. He's just going to call some false calls here. Hut, but he's never going to actually snap the ball. And for some reason, the D-line jumps, and that's how the game ends. In all honesty, the whole story of this game was just the Commanders' defense and nothing else. Should the offense have let this game get this close? No, because I think their offense is far too good to let this game be this close. But what happened. We watched it on the field, and the Steelers still walked away with the win. Titans, Chargers. You know what? Something happened to the Titans last week after they beat the Patriots in overtime, because they came out in this game playing a lot better than I ever seen them this season so far or expected them to do. Even Will Levis throwing for 175 yards and 2 touchdowns. He honestly outperformed Justin Herbert on the other side. Now, they lost the game 27-17. Those 2 touchdowns that Will Levis threw was pretty much the only points that they had until the field goal towards the end. But I look at the effort that they actually put in on the field. I have to give them their respect for that. Calvin Ridley actually showed up for the Titans in this one, him catching the ball for 84 yards. He only caught the ball 5 times, 5 receptions, and he got both touchdowns that Will Levis threw. So that's a solid performance for him. But overall, if we want to be honest, after the first quarter for this one, it was just domination by the Chargers. That's really all you can say about this. The Vikings and the Jags. I think everybody was shocked in this game to see the Jags really make the Vikings struggle to actually do anything in this game. And you locked them down to hitting only field goals. But I think everyone was just shocked to watch the Vikings struggle against the Jags. But I keep saying this week in and week out. The Jags are not necessarily a bad team. The Jags have their own way of making you earn these victories. Now, you did lock down the Vikings to, 5 field goals or something like that, and they still walked away with a win. Sam Darnold really struggled in this game with 3 interceptions in this one. Mike Jones came into this game to start for the Jags. He didn't do too terrible, but he didn't throw any touchdowns and had 2 interceptions himself. There's been a lot of rumors saying the Jags should bench Trevor Lawrence, and it's all over social media and whatnot. But to be honest, I think they made him inactive for this game to protect him from the media and not say that they were benching him. But I think that's exactly what they were trying to do. I'm not exactly sure if benching him is truly the answer for the Jags. I don't know if it does anything for them, because I think he's definitely their best chance to win at the quarterback position. Has he regressed so far? Maybe. But he is not a terrible player. Absolutely not. I don't think he needs to be benched, but I do think he needs to be coached a lot better. And those are two very different things. I keep saying this week in and week out. Where you go matters. Coaching matters. If Baker Mayfield is not proof of that, I'm not sure what is. And Geno Smith up at the Seahawks. But if this was another team playing the Vikings, whichever other team they're playing definitely would have won this one. You know, the Vikings would have lost this game for certain. It just happened to be that they got lucky with the Jaguars in this one for this week. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. Definitely like and subscribe, and we will have much more coming for you. Have a good one.